we have a lot of exciting platform updates. The first of which is that we've experienced tremendous growth and scale within the last 3 months. We've onboarded tens of thousands of new end users. And during that time, David and I, from the very beginning, have really built Dune Security with enterprise scale in mind. And we've really flexed our muscles with that now. And thanks to the exceptional work from our dev team, we've been able to have 99.9% uptime in the last 90 days, even as we've dramatically increased the number of end users on platform. So shout out to the amazing devs for that. We've also had some pretty exciting updates that we've pushed out, one of which is the genetic algorithm, or our organic immunity model, is now productionalized and live. And that is really exciting because basically after the baseline risk assessment, that's when we switch into this automated remediation mode. And so based on user behavior and user interactions, we've been able to determine their strengths and their weaknesses. And the organic immunity model will serve simulated white hat social engineering attacks and trainings based on user behavior and based on how they engage with training and based on how they're reporting emails using Dune Watchtower. So that's very exciting. We have several clients who are using that and it's working very well. With feedback from the council, we've also built in guardrails, so users wouldn't receive more than a certain amount of emails in a certain amount of time, and we'll make sure that they receive a certain number of a minimum during that time as well. And so the CISO has full control over that. But again, they're not needing to launch campaigns. They're not needing to do a lot of work here. They're able to just set the guardrails and let security autopilot work with their users. Another exciting feature that we've built out in the last 3 months is fingerprinting. So one of the things that we've noticed is depending on the security infrastructure of our clients, if they're using tools that are really like a great seg, we were registering a lot of clicks that users hadn't actually clicked on. And so what we've implemented is really robust fingerprinting. So when we register a click, we can very astutely determine if that is the seg clicking on something to determine if it's malicious or if it's actually an end user. A lot of our competitors that are out there say, oh, if you have a 100% click rate, you need to go figure that out in your seg. We're actually able to systematically understand if it's a genuine user click, which makes sure that our data and our user journey is very accurate and clear. We've also productionalized Dune Nudge, which is an integration for both Slack and Teams. That allows us to instantly notify end users, BISOs, and CISOs in a method that they're very, very familiar with. And so some of the use cases that we've used Dune Nudge for so far are notifying BISOs, CISOs, and managers when a user engages in very high-risk behavior. If one of your end users goes through the entire failure chain, they receive an email, they engage with it, they click on it, they go to a simulated portal, they enter their enterprise email, their enterprise password, and an MFA code. That is a great use case for real-time intervention from their manager, from their BISO, or from their CISO. So when a user engages in high-risk behavior, we're able to instantly notify on that. And for the end user, we're actually able to send them reminders when they have outstanding trainings, whether those are security related or compliance related. And there's actually a lot of different use cases for Dune Nudge to be able to send those notifications, including things like sending security tips. If there's been attacks recently that are pertinent for a particular industry, we can notify end users across the org about that very easily. This one I'm personally very happy about. With Dune Watchtower, that's our email reporting plugin. So if a user receives something that is suspicious, they can use that. And then if it's a Dune asset, it rewards them by reducing their risk score. If it is not a Dune asset, then it passes that over to the organization's SOC for forensic analysis. We've been working with Google to get that certified and available for easy installation from the Google Workplace Store. So we finally got CASA certification for that. And that can now be deployed to an enterprise with just a few clicks through the Google Workplace store. So we're very excited about that. Another feature that we've implemented is direct mail injection for both Google Workspace and for Outlook. This is really exciting because one of the issues that any security training company is going to have when they're sending simulated attacks is getting caught up in security infrastructure that is meant to block attacks. So with DMI, we're able to, through API calls, inject messages directly into users' inboxes, which circumvents that entire security infrastructure and allows us to run much more sophisticated spear phishing attacks and business email compromise attacks. So we're able to actually send as if we're a user within the organization, if that's something that a CISO wants to replicate in terms of a business email compromise attack. And with direct mail injection, it also ensures perfect deliverability of all of our assets across the org. We've introduced a lot of additional attack vectors, which is really exciting. On the dev side of the house, we always love working on stuff like this because it's fun to see what users will fall for and how far they'll go down the failure chain. I think last time we spoke, we had really robust capabilities with phishing and with smishing, with hybrid attacks, and with simulated login portals. So we have all of that, but now we've also introduced several additional attack vectors. One of the main ones is downloadable files. So we have PDFs with telemetry built into them to understand if a user is opening a PDF in the preview in their email client, or if they've downloaded that file to their computer and if they've opened that up. There's basic telemetry built in there that phones home to our endpoints to basically report out that a user has engaged with that. We also have executable files to see if we can get a user to download and run an executable. They're very basic. It essentially has telemetry that alerts us when a user does download that file and then when they execute the file. And the CISO actually has the capability to set parameters around that on what happens after they run that file. Do we want them to immediately be launched into a training about how that's very risky behavior? The CISO can be alerted via Dune Nudge anytime any of that high-risk behavior is detected. We also have macro-enabled workbooks. So if a user is downloading files, they should know better than to enable macros for any workbook coming from really anybody. There's very limited use cases where you'd want to run a macro-enabled workbook, but we can detect when users download those and then when they enable macros. The new attack vectors that we've introduced also allow us to run much more elegant and specific hybrid attacks. So we can generate something that would be like a business email compromise asset that looks like it's coming from IT, asking a user to download a file because we've noticed their machine is running slow, and to see if they'll actually go through that process of then downloading a file and running that on their machine. Another thing that we've talked about for a long time that we've actually made substantial progress on lately, and this is directly tied to the work that Jordan on our team has done. He's brought on to do a lot of the API engineering for ingesting data from our customer security stack. So some of the tools that we've built API integrations with so far, and this was directly based on some of the feedback that we received from CISOs on our advisory calls. So we started with IAM, and we have integrations fully built out with Okta and with Microsoft Entra ID. So we're able to detect anomalous user behavior through their IDP if they're logging in from locations that they're not typically, or if there's any anomalous behavior of a login happening in location B and simultaneously in location C, we can detect that, and that can be reflected in a user's risk score. We've also built out integrations with our first EDR. We started with Microsoft Defender, and so we're able to gather a lot of insights from users' devices to understand if they're patched, if threats are detected, and now have that reflected in users' risk scores. As we look to the future, there are countless additional API integrations to security infrastructure that we're building out. The next that we'll be working on are plugging into SEGs. So getting really interesting and rich information about how users are interacting with email. With that, we're able to put together social graphs to understand who people are typically emailing in day-to-day business, and then start to track anomalies if there is user interactions outside of the org or general anomalous behavior that could be reflective of individual user risk.